Give us a wave if you can hear us. Yay! Oh, this is lovely. We've got loads of you on tonight. Thank you ever so much. This is fabulous. Any questions, you can put them in the chat at the side, if that's all right. And Andrew will either feed me the questions or we will answer them and put them on. Where will we put them, Andrew? Facebook? Yeah? We're just saying, yeah? Who knows? Right, so this month I wanted to concentrate on scanning because we don't get a lot of time in a show to talk about the scanning, and that actually is one of the main reasons why I love the ScanNCut, because you can scan things in. So we're going to do all the different types of scanning that you can do, which is really cool. And first of all, my machine is upside down. I do know it's upside down. For anybody put it in the chat. Mel, do you know you've got your machine upside down? I might have been up since 4:30 this morning, but yeah, I do know. I'm going to teach you how to clean your scanner, because when we went to Peterborough last weekend, I had so many people ask me how to clean the scanner, and that's my fault for never showing you how to do it. So on the SDX, you're going to unplug your machine and obviously turn it off. If you've got anything in the storage, take it out, because otherwise it sounds like your machine's breaking, and it's not. It's just all the stuff rattling about. So you turn it upside down with everything switched off. Where the shelf is, here at the back, the shelf that pulls out, you pull that out so that it's taken out from the main machine. And then there's a little button here. Well, it's not a button, it's like a little clasp, if you like, or a catch. You're going to push that forward and that releases that tray and it comes out. And in here is your scanner. And it's really important, especially if you use your ScanNCut a lot, to clean it on a regular basis, because bits of card, bits of glue, bits of whatever, bits of fabric, threads, anything like that can get stuck over the scanner. So if you've ever scanned anything in and you see these lines coming down your screen, it's because there's something over the scanner. So the best way to clean it, please don't use anything like a blusher brush or anything that's got bristles in it, because if one of those comes out, it's going to do exactly the same thing. You're going to get a line down your scanner. So a damp, and I mean literally just a very, very lightly damp microfiber cloth, wipe it and then dry it with a dry microfiber cloth, and that should get any smears or smudges or anything like that off it. This one is pretty clean because I cleaned it at the weekend several times, showing people how to do it. But this is really just good housekeeping, really. You need to just keep on top of your scanner and make sure that it's nice and clean. And then to put it back, you literally, I'm doing this without looking, so anything could happen right now, is you just pop that back into there, push it back in place, and then the shelf goes back in. So super, super easy to clean your scanner, which is really cool. Right, let me just turn this over and get this in the right position so that you can see what I am doing. Oh, you can see what I mean about thinking your machine's broken because all the accessories inside roll about. Yeah, do as I say, not as I do, I think is the rule there. Just make sure she's still plugged in. And then I'm going to lift the screen up and we can start to play. Right, so let's switch it on. And then we'll start with our first scanning. So your SDX 900, you can scan in a 12 by 12 inch scanning mat, and this is what your mat will look like. On the bottom of your mat, if it's for SDX, it will say CAD X Mats 12. You can scan this in on both SDX machines, so the 900 or the 1200. But you can't scan the 12 by 24 inch ones in on an SDX 900. I actually can't remember the last time I scanned in a 12 by 24 inch mat. So unless you're working on big projects, I wouldn't worry about it. When you get your scanning mat, and this is the one for the CM machine, but I'm just going to bring it in to show you, there will be a blue strip across the top. Please take that off because it helps it recognize color better. So you need to have that removed before you start scanning it in. Right, so we're going to start with the die cut. Now, I have to tell you that tattered lace, two-red robins, anything like that, anything that comes out of Highlight Crafts, you are absolutely categorically allowed to scan it in, save it to the machine's memory and resize it. However, not all companies allow you to do that. So please check with them first. I know Tonic definitely don't allow you to do it. I don't know about any of the other dye brands. And the only reason for that is because you are saving it into the machine's memory and their artwork is copyrighted. So just be careful of that. This is a panel from the Floral Facade collection that I bought you with tattered lace a couple of weeks ago now, I think. And I've just cut this because it's a nice detailed design. Now we have to remember two things. First of all, the ScanNCut needs a 3mm turning point to go into the card, rotate, meet itself and come out and give you a clean cut. And that's really important when you're scanning in a die cut because a lot of pieces on the die cut will be really tiny. I'm going to show you how to get around that and why we do it and how we do it. But the other thing to remember as well is that when you're scanning a die in, it's not going to pick up detail lines. So with tattered lace, I met with a lot of dies actually like two red robins, you've got a tremendous amount of detail lines in that die cut. It can't see it because it's a line. So there's no light shining through for it to see it as a shape. So just be aware of that as well. Okay, so I always use a scanning mat for scanning in a die cut because A, there's no sticky on it and it's a really clean background. So there's no grid on it, no adhesive on it. It's just a clean white background. I always try and cut in black because the best contrast to white is black, and any scanner, whether it's built into the ScanNCut or otherwise, works on contrast. And always when you're scanning it in, try and get your die cut as straight as possible, because when you scan it in, and if it's wonky, it will come up on your screen as wonky, and then you have to start rotating it. And then if you want to do other things with it, then absolutely you need to make sure that it's straight. Sorry, Andrew, did you say something, love? No, you can't use a CM scanning mat with an SDX. You have to use the mats are the only accessory that don't go backwards and forwards with both machines. The auto blade will fit in your CM machine, but it won't be an auto blade. So you might as well just use your CM blade for that. Right, so we're going to scan this in. So on the home screen, you will have your patterns and then you've got scan. So I'm going to click on scan and you've got three different options. You've got scan to USB. So if you've got important documents, photographs, anything like that that you want to scan in and save to a USB, you can do it on this because essentially it's a scanner. So you can use it for all the things that you would normally use a scanner for. You then won't be able to open those files on your ScanNCut, but you'll be able to open them on your PC. Now on the SDX machines, when you scan into USB, it actually uses a 600 DPI setting. So it's really, really accurate. So any, like I said, photographs, anything like that, you can scan in and save it to a USB. We do sell the blank USBs on Highlight Crafts, which are compatible. They're 4 GB and they're on at a really good price. And I've got some fabulous deals for you tonight as well, just so that you know. And you need a compatible one. So if you don't want to buy one from us, if you search compatible USB sticks for Brother ScanNCut, it brings up a list and all the compatible USBs are on that list. However, it is literal. So if it says something like Cruiser 8 gig, don't buy a 16 gig unless it's on that list. It's absolutely imperative that you do that because it won't read it, okay? So I'm going to scan this in. So we're just going to open up the front of the machine, put it up to the rollers. Keep hold of the mat. You don't need to push it, but just keep hold of it so that you're guiding it in. Because if you don't, and you let it go like that, this roller will take this side in, but not that side. And then you've ruined your mat because it will crease it as it's going in. So load mat, and we're going to scan it in. And another thing I would always say is don't go right up to the top of the mat because sometimes it will miss the top edge. And I'm going to explain to you why that's important as we go through the process of scanning. So we're going to scan to cut data. So basically what that means is we're scanning to create a cutting file. So we're going to scan to cut data. I'm going to do it in grayscale because there's no colour on here. So I just want that black and white contrast. And I'm just going to press start. You can go into the little spanner at the side and switch it to colour, and it will read up to 20 colours, and you are in charge of that. So you can ask it to do up to 20 or lower or less than, depending on how detailed the image is that you're scanning in. So it's recognising that now, and it's doing its thing. And this is where the SDX is faster, because it scans quicker, it recognises it quicker. So we've now got our image, okay? Don't think that, oh, that's now, it's done and that's all I need to do. All it's done is bring up the image that it's seen on the screen. You have to then go to these options here. So this one, the first one, excuse me, is just the outside edge. So all this will pick up is the rectangle that's around the outside. And funnily enough, I've got a little bit of sticky on my mat because it's been in a bag from Peterborough, and it's picked that up. That's how accurate the scanner is, okay? So if you've got any marks or anything like that on your mat, just make sure that before you ask it to create the file, that you just drag over those little marks, because it will pick it up. And when it picks it up, it will pick up that, but it will also pick up those little bits over there. And when you then group it together, you'll end up with a much wider piece, because you've got your main image here and then your little marks over here, and it will group it as a big shape. Then you won't be able to expand it as much. So just make sure that you've gone over the little marks, or you delete them before you save the file. Right, so I've now got that. So that's just going to read the rectangle. That's not what we want. This one here, the one on the right-hand side, will pick up the centre of every line. So if you wanted to draw this as a single line file, it will now draw that for you. And you can then Zentangle inside it or colour it or whatever you want to do. So that's that one. The middle one cuts on either side of every line. This is the one that you use to replicate that die image, because it's going to cut on the outside and the inside of each line that it's found. And that will give you the open trellis work in the middle. So that's the one that we want, okay? If you've got an image that isn't picking up correctly and it needs a little bit more contrast, this is what this bar is all about. So if we click on this, you can make the contrast higher or lower, right? So you just move that across. It's not something that I use very much at all. In fact, I don't think I've ever used it, but it's there if you need it, okay? Then we've got ignore object size. Now this is the important one. So you imagine we've got this die, and some of these pieces are smaller than 3 millimeters. That means that as a cutting file, it might just miss meeting itself. It's not going to take the tip off your blade, because the blade on the SDX is super strong, but it might not meet itself perfectly. However, if you're going to scan this in to make it bigger, if you don't drop the object size down to 1 millimeter, so it reads everything from 1 millimeter and above, when you come to expand that shape, where the pieces haven't been picked up, it will look like something's missing. So as long as you're going to make something bigger, you can go into ignore object size. And just let me come out of there for 1 minute, because it doesn't matter, I can go into here and show you this way. So it says 0.12 inches, which is 3 millimeters, because 0.04 inches is 1 mil. Should have changed it to millimeters before I started. That's my fault. So 3 millimeters. Now I can drop that down to 1 millimeter. So now it's picking everything that's 1 millimeter and above up, which is really cool, okay? So I'm now going to press OK, and I'm going to show you this tool. This is something that's unique to the SDX, and this is called a smoothing tool. Now, the reason for this is if it's a piece of artwork that you've drawn or a copyright-free template that you've downloaded, when you print it off, with the naked human eye, you can't see that there might be really, really tiny little splashes of ink that you don't see until you look at it under a magnifying glass. And I know, because I've done it, just to see why they put it on. So you might end up, when it cuts something out, with a really wobbly line that goes down the edge. The smoothing line will smooth that out. So it will make it straighter. It's almost like little teeny tiny pixels that it can see. So you want to make that straight so that when it cuts it, it gives you a smooth cut. So you can go higher or lower. So less smooth, that's not very good English, but that's what I mean, or smoother. Okay, so that's what you would use your smoothing tool for. So now I'm going to press OK, and it's going to process the information that I've asked it to do. I'm going to save it into the machine's memory because I haven't brought my USB with me. There's not enough space on there, so I'm just going to cancel that because I need every single file that's in my machine at the moment is relating to the Christmas house that I've designed. So I'm going to pop it onto a USB. I'm going to pop that into there. I have a lot of files in my machine at the moment because I've got the, bear with me, my words are slow today because I've been up for a long time, the milk carton that I designed and the Christmas house. So I'm going to save it onto the USB and it's file number 244. So I'm going to press OK now because I don't need this image anymore. So I'm going to press home and OK, and then I can unload my mat. Right, so we're going to retrieve it from the USB and we're going to find file 244, and you can have a look. These are all the stencil ones that I took parts of and redesigned. This is what I do, and then I'll transfer them onto a USB as and when I'm ready. So 244, and you'll notice it says FCM. That's the file format that the ScanNCut produces. And the reason it's called FCM is because it was originally going to be a fabric cutting machine. So that's why they call it FCM. So I'm going to bring up the image that we found on the screen. I'm going to press OK and put it on a workable mat. And now we need to group it. So we're going to go to Edit, Multiple Select, everything that's on the mat. And you can see there, all those little red select boxes. That's how many parts it's found. So it's found everything that we need. There's no detail lines in this one. It's just that trellis design. And then I'm going to press OK, and we're going to go to Object Edit, and we're going to group it together. And now I can scale this up. So you can see we can just keep going bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, which is fabulous. Now, if I zoom in on this for you, to 400%, you will see that it's picked up all those little areas. So if I move over here, oh, wrong way, Melanie, that way, like that, and I move down the screen, you can see that we've now got all those little pieces. So you've now taken that die, and with permission from Tattered Lace, you've made it bigger, which is really, really cool. So that's how you scan to cut data. Now, the other question that I've been asked a lot at Peterborough, and this has come up, almost every other person was asking this. Crafts You Print is a company that sell digital downloads on Create and Craft. And apparently the demonstrators have been saying that you can scan them in. Crafts You Print have said, yes, you can scan them in. They've given you permission. However, earlier, every scanner works on contrast. So that doesn't mean that it has to have a thick black line all the way around the shape. It means that it has to have, if you've got a white lily that's kind of not solid white, it's got a little bit of pale blue or a little bit of grey in it, and it can't see enough contrast between the background and the image, it can't find it. And it doesn't matter whether it's a scanner in a cutting machine or whether it's a scanner on your printer, it can't find it. So we need to work out how we do that. So let's, for example, say that this is printed. The outside edge is a complete shape. So it will always find that outside edge. And that's what we want when we're scanning in something like a sheet of decoupage. We need a complete outside edge. So for the lily, I would suggest you got a pencil and just went around the outside edge. It doesn't need to be a thick black line. There's this whole thing going around that you have to have a thick black line. You absolutely don't. It just needs to be a complete shape. So if you've got a hydrangea head, for example, printed, and it's blue, and then it goes into the leaves and the leaves are green, it will find it. If there's a little bit of a really pale blue against the edge of the flower that goes into the white background, you need to complete that line. So what I was finding people were saying was, I've got this it was a few people said the same thing. I've got this owl stamp, and when I scan it in, it doesn't find the outside edge, it finds the eyes. That's because the outside edge isn't complete. So it finds its next available outside edge. And that's why sometimes it will go into the image rather than cutting the outside edge. So you need to make sure that it's got a continual line. Just like it won't put up detail lines, it needs a shape. So once it can complete that and make that line into a shape, then it's happy and it will cut it. So that's something else that I wanted to talk to you about as well. So the other thing that we can do with our scanning is we can scan in a stamped image, which is exactly what I'm going to do for you now. And this is what I've just been talking about. So I'm going to bring in these two images and show you what I mean. So this is the stamp that I had on this morning with Vintage Ink, or one of the stamps I had on this morning. If I scanned this in now, it wouldn't find the outside edge because there's a break at the bottom of the stem. So all we do is take a fine liner and we complete that line. Now it can find a shape. Sometimes when you're stamping, you might miss a little bit. You know, you might not ink it up properly. It might be a really, really fine line and there might not have been enough pressure on it. So just go around the outside edge of your image and just check that everything is joined up, okay? Because sometimes there will be little gaps and it's not a fault in the stamp, it's just the way the image has been designed. So now I should be able to scan that in and it should pick it up perfectly. Again, your smoothing tool can come into play here because when you're manually stamping, sometimes you squidge a little bit more to the right or a little bit more to the left. So there's all that smoothing tool is useful for this. So I'm going to scan this in. So now I've got this on a cutting mat. The machine will not allow you to cut on a scanning mat. It just says you can't cut on that mat. So you can't cut into your scanning mat. Your scanning mat should be a one-off purchase because if you keep it clean and you look after it, it will last you a lifetime. Just don't do what I do and put it in a bag with my sticky sponge that I've been retaking mats with all weekend. That's why I've got sticky on my mat. So I'm going to load this mat in this time and we're going to scan to direct cut this time. So basically what we're doing now is we're using the ScanNCut as a pair of scissors. So instead of sitting there and fussy cutting it out, again, it will replace that. Now, if this was a printed image on a polka dot background, when it got, so it will go up the stem, around the leaf. As soon as it hit a polka dot, it would go around the polka dot because that's the outside edge. So you need a clean background, really. It needs to be without a pattern on because it will see so many different things that it will continue around all the little dots that are on the back or stripes. So a clean background is what you need. And again, don't put it right up to the top because remember, this isn't a full back 12 by 12 cut area. It's 11.65 inches by 11.73. So it comes in slightly before it starts to cut. It also comes in slightly before it starts to scan. So if it's right at the top and you've got a rectangle or a shape and that, when you put it right at the top on a piece of card because you're trying to be frugal, if it can't see the top of that shape, it won't find it. It'll find its next available inside line. So I'm going to scan to direct cut. I'm going to use the machine to convert the image to a cutting file. So you just always need to press machine. And then we're going to press start. But just before we do, I'm going to take you into this toolbox here. This is where you can switch to color mode. So it will pick up colors. So if you've got something that's got lots of different colors on one sheet and it's finding some and not others, put it on color mode. And sometimes it's better on grayscale and sometimes it's better on color. So if it fails on one, try the other, okay? And then your scanning area is 12 by 12. For the SDX 1200 users, you can scan the first 6 inches of the mat, the whole of the mat. If you're working on a 12 by 24, the first 18 inches of a mat and 12 by 24. So you could actually, if you're working on an SDX 1200, just buy one long mat, but only use the first 6 or 12 inches. It's up to you. It depends how much desk space you've got because the long mats are obviously twice the length of this. So they're long. The choice is yours, which one you prefer. I'm going to leave it on 12 by 12 and I'm going to press OK. So now we're ready to start. And I'm going to pause it because I've asked it to do it in colour instead of grayscale. So I'm going to go back to grayscale. I told you it's been a long day today. It's been a fun day, but it's been a long day. We're going to start. Right, so now I'm going to ask it to cut that out. So fussy cutting, this is brilliant. It won't always find all the landlocked areas. It depends how detailed the image is, but you just go in there with a little craft knife or a pair of scissors. But this is, it's just, honestly, the amount of time it will save you. And it's interesting because since the merger, we've had a few of the presenters buy machines. So Adam Humphries has bought one, Catherine Sturrock's bought one, Hayley West has bought one, and Leonie's just bought one. And she's bought one for this reason, because she said, I spend half my life cutting out stamped images. I said, you need a ScanNCut. So she's just bought one too. So I'm going to press OK now, and it's found that outside edge for me. Now I'm just going to see, and I'm not guaranteeing it will do this, but I'm just going to see if I go over that outside edge, whether it will find those landlocked areas for me or not. So I'm going to go over the outside edge and I'm going to preview. I don't know whether it will. Can you see how it's gone to its next available space there? So it's found all the little buds. If I drag that further in to that landlocked area, I'm wondering whether it will find that for me. I don't think it will, but I'm going to try it anyway because I like things like that. Right, let's have a look. No, it's just finding the little buds. So we know that we're not going to get to that little bit. So I'm going to do this. Right, so I'm going to preview again. So every time you move those arrows, you need to preview again. Otherwise, it won't complete its cycle. Now, ignore object size again. You've got that same thing. The other way that you can use ignore object size is if you're scanning in a patterned piece of paper that's got lots of little flowers over it, and it picks up some extra little bits on it or cut lines on your mat, anything like that, you can take so if I go into ignore object size, it's reading everything that is 3 mm and above. So let's say you've got, I don't know, strawberries right across a sheet of paper, and then there's some little teeny flowers in between the strawberries, but it's on a clean background. If you don't want the flowers, and the flowers are 1/4 inch, as long as you make the object size bigger than the shape that you want to eliminate, it won't read it. So you can use the ignore object size both ways, to eliminate small pieces or to find the small pieces. And that's quite kind of useful if you're doing a lot of scanning in of pattern papers and cutting all the bits out. So just so that you know, that's what you can do with that. You've got your smoothing tool in here as well, and also your grayscale contrast slider. So I'm going to press OK. Now we have options. We can either put a shape around it. So if we choose a circle, it will find the right size of circle to go around it. If we choose a scallop circle, it'll find the right size of scallop circle. So if you want to make your stamped images into toppers, you can do that. Rounded corner squares. And if this shows a square, but because the shape is taller than it is wide, it will put a rectangle around it automatically. So it is really clever, all the different things that you can do with it. And you've got label shapes in there. Now that label shape there is not on your ScanNCut in its basic shapes. So you've now got an extra set of nesting dies because you can create inward and outward offset lines of that. So I'm going to go to cross because I don't want that. I can add an outward offset line in millimetre increments. So I'm going to ask it to do a 2 mm outward offset line around the edge. If you don't put an offset line, it will cut to the black edge. And then I'm going to press OK. You can go into edit. So if you've got any stray bits, you can ask it to colour fill it. So it would colour in. Now it's not going to find all the little tiny buds on that flower and colour them all in individually. Don't get excited. It's not going to take away the joy of colouring in. But it will fill the whole thing, which you might not want. But if you've got an image of, oh, I don't know, let's say a cat, you know, you've got an outline of a cat and you've got the copyright image that you can absolutely scan in, then you could ask it to fill that in and it will colour it in for you. You can add an extra line on if you're going to draw it. And you can also use it with the piercing tool, which we'll come on to in a later class. So I'm now going to press OK. And I'm going to keep going now. It's processing that information. It's now asking me to please select, and I can now cut that out. So I'm going to press start. Now, I'm going to show you something else that's a little bit cool with this as well. And I'm going to bring in something that's a little bit exciting. It's arrived. Don't buy it yet. I've got a deal for you. Very excited about this. I'm not going to talk about it yet because I'll get carried away and then we won't finish the class, because I am very excited about it. Right, so we have now got, just always check that it's cut through perfectly, which it hasn't, because I've probably got it on a setting from this weekend because I've been doing all sorts of stuff. Yes, I have. There you go. I'm going to take that up to 1 millimetre. Andrew keeps saying to me, move your hand, move your hand, move your hand. Because I lean on my chin when I'm doing it. So I'm going to take that up because this is quite a thick cardstock. It's my fault. He always talks to me when I'm trying to concentrate. Right, so we've been asked if the die that I scanned in, can we then save that and manipulate it in the way that we do with the digital files on the magazine? Absolutely. Why is that not working? Is my half cut on? I've got a half cut on. Of course I have. That's exactly why it's not working. It is always user error. I'm really sorry. I am apologising profusely. Right, let me answer the first question first before Andrew's asking me another question in my head. I'm going to mute him one of these days. Drives me crazy. So the question was, yes, you absolutely can manipulate the shape. So when we brought it onto the screen and we multiple selected everything to group it, you saw how many individual pieces there were. So if you save it ungrouped and send it into Canvas Workspace, you can then remove the outside edge and you can go in and play with all those different shapes. So absolutely, you can make a little corner, you can make a border, you can do all sorts of different things with those shapes. So yes, absolutely, that works. Right, so I now have my image that's cut out perfectly, okay, with that border all the way around the outside edge. Now, what if I want to mat that? This is when it gets clever. So if I press OK and I use my back arrow, I can unload this mat and still keep the shape on the screen. So it's telling me that when unloading the mat, the position of the pattern on the mat may shift from the scanned image. Are you okay to continue? And I just say okay, because I am okay to continue. But the shape is still there. Now, if I go into my offset line again, and I make it 4 millimeters this time, so I've now got the 2 millimeters that's around the stamped image, and another 2 millimeters for my next matte layer, or it could be 1 millimeter, I can create the perfect matte layer for that shape. So let's do that. So I'm going to put this beautiful cardstock on my mat. Can't tell you how giddy I got when this arrived. Even more excited than we all got yesterday when the extender arrived from Cadence. We were all doing little jigs in the car park. It was that exciting. Right, so I'm going to press that down. I'm going to load this in. Now, I know that I am going to sacrifice this piece of card because I'm cutting it in the middle, but it's my card and I'm all right with that. So normally I wouldn't do it this far in the centre, but I wanted you all to be able to see. So if I now press OK again, and I press please select and cut, it will now cut me out that perfect matte layer. So the shapes that you're scanning in from your stamps, you can create matte layers. So there's no point being able to fussy cut out a stamp if you've then got to go around and fussy cut the mats and layers. This will allow you to do it in millimetre increments, which is super cool. The only thing that you can't do on direct cut, which I wish you could, and I'm actually going to send an email to Brother and ask him if they can, is you can't save it. Because it's direct cut and because direct cut doesn't infringe those copyright rules because you're not saving it into the machine's memory, it won't allow you to save it. So I think that's probably why, but Yeah, I think that's probably the answer that I would get if I asked the question. So now I'm going to put this on here like this. So you will see now that it's got that perfect 2mm border all the way around the outside edge, which is super cool. Then what I could do is press OK and go back. Let me just see if this will work, because I'm thinking it might do. And I could put a square around that. And now I can make that bigger, like that. And then that would cut that middle bit out, wouldn't it? That will cut it out, that aperture bit. So I'm going to please select and cut. See, this is something that I hadn't thought of doing before. This is just now happening live in front of you. I'd never thought about going back and putting a shape around, because now I can use the aperture, which is just fabulous. So I'm getting the most out of that piece of cardstock now. This is super exciting. I'm getting really a bit giddy now. Right, so let me bring in a piece of the pale blue. Oh, look at that. That's very nice. Right, let me get this off the mat. So now I could have, in fact, I'm going to pick a darker blue from the same pack because I can. So let's have this lovely blue. This is my favourite blue. I'm going to put that over there. And I'm going to put this, look at that, inside there. So even the bit that's in the middle that's left, I can use that to create my mats and layers. That's super cool. And then all I would do is make a rectangle that's slightly bigger, and that's your card front done. So that's direct cut and ScanNCut data. So the next thing that I would like to show you, how are we doing for time? Oh, we've got loads of time. Excellent. That's what I like to hear. I want to show you how to cut reflections or charisma if you're a Tattered Lace subscriber, because this is important. So I'm going to unload this now. And I have got a USB from Two Red Robins called First Love, which has the 4 chapters on it. So I'm going to take this USB out and pop that USB in. Like that. There we go. Wait for that to load. I'm going to press OK, and I'm going to press home and delete that off. Right, I have got a reflection here, and it's called, it will always tell you when you print off your reflection. So when you buy a USB like this, it will have the reflections artwork on the USB. So you don't need to download it from anywhere else. When you're printing it out, please print it at actual size or 100%. Don't do fit to page. Not because it won't, you can't make it fit, but just because that's the way that the cutting file, that's the size the cutting file is on the USB that lays over the top of here. But you can resize it as well. I'm going to show you how to do that too. So I'm not going to cut these out because I want to show you how you resize it too, and then I want to talk to you about the deals that we've got. So I'm going to go into retrieve data this time and into the USB. At the bottom, it will always tell you which collection it's from, so first prize, and it will also tell you the name of the file, which is A Hint of Sun. It will then give you a size, so large, extra large or small. If it doesn't give you a size, it's the original. And then if it's a reversed reflection, it will say reverse reflection underneath. So you can't go wrong. You don't have to keep going back and putting the USB in your computer to find out what it's called. The key to this is this black rectangle around here. So we're going to choose our file first. So when you're scanning in an image like this, to cut out on your ScanNCut, you need to bring the shape on first. Okay, so when you're scanning from a different screen, you need to bring the shape on first. So I'm going to go into first prize. They're always in alphabetical order, so I'll go into A Hint of Sun. The detail cuts are the files that you could draw, foil or emboss. The matte cuts are the matte layers, so the first layer, like if you bought a die, it would be the foundation die that sat behind it. And the reflections and the cuts are in this folder. So you can see I've got extra large, large, and original, and those sizes are just to get you started, okay? I've got the decoupage cut, and I've also got the full reflection cut, and that's the one that we want to use. So I'm going to load this in. And always try and work with your machine directly in front of you. If you try and load it all the time from the side, one, you can knock the calibration of the screen out. And secondly, it can, if you're not quite holding it properly and evenly, it can make your mat twist. So just be careful. So I'm going to do reflection cut. Look, I've now got this. So I've got my 8 sunflowers on there and I've got my rectangle around the outside edge. That rectangle is key. This is the key to be able to scanning in things like this. So I'm going to press OK, and the first thing we're going to do is group it together because we're going to need to move the whole thing as one part. So we go to Edit, Multiple Select, everything on the mat, and press OK. We're then going to Object Edit, and we're going to group it. Now we're going to scan it from a different place this time. So we're going to press OK, and we're going to press OK again, and then there's this little scanner here, okay? So I'm going to scan in now from this screen, not from the home screen, from this screen. I'm going to scan it in. It's going to come out, and we're not scanning this now so that it can see the outside edge and cut it out, because we always put a bleed around them, and we put a bleed around them. So if you're not absolutely 100% accurate, you don't get that horrible white edge. So if I just make this back, well, let me just show you this as it was. So you can see I've got that full color image on my screen. So you can see it clearly. I'm going to go into my settings. I'm going to make the background lighter so that you can see the cutting file a little bit more. And then I'm going to go to Edit, and I'm going to zoom in. And I always zoom in up to 400% because it's the most accurate zoom. And then all I'm going to do is grab the cutting file that's got the rectangle around it, and I'm going to line that up with the rectangle that is around the reflection. And then these arrows at the top, I can nudge it so that that red line is in the middle of that black line. And then I can press OK. And now you'll see if I just make that background darker again, that cutting file is lined up perfectly over the top. And then all you do is you've got 2 choices. You can then go to Object, Edit, and ungroup it, tap the screen to release the shapes, and then you can delete the rectangle, or you can ungroup it. You can then change the cut area and drag over the rectangle so it can't see the rectangle, and then cut the flowers out. Because, or if you just want to cut the bottom 4, you can drag it over the top 4 and it will just cut those 4 out. The key is if you're only cutting some of them, not all of them, you need to keep that rectangle intact by either deleting the file so it doesn't cut it out of the reflection, or by dragging that arrow over. Otherwise you'll end up with reflections and no rectangle to line it up with. So that's how you do a reflection. Now, what if we want to resize our reflections? Because we can do that because we're using a ScanNCut, not dies. And this is where it really comes into its own for me. On an SDX, you have a percentage resize button. So earlier on, I printed the same file off at 50%. So I'm going to position this on here, and it doesn't have to be 50. It can be 72, 86, 110. Doesn't matter. The larger you go, that you'll need a bigger scanner. That's the only printer, rather. Right, where have I put my scraper? I did have it. Here it is. Oh dear, I've got a whole weekender launching tomorrow night. Good grief. By Sunday, I'll just be delirious, I think. Right, so what we're going to do with this file, I'm going to group it again. So I'm going to multiple select everything on the mat, press OK, go to Object, Edit, and group it. And now I'm going to resize it. And this percentage button, when I click on that, is 100%. I can make it 50% or whatever size I want it to be, which is super cool. Can't do that with a piece of metal. And on the CM machine, you would just measure one side of the rectangle and then adjust the size to that. But you've got SDXs, so we can do it as a percentage, which is super cool. So just to show you that it lines up perfectly, I will just scan it in. So same thing again, keep pressing OK, keep going, scan in from here. Now, if you've got the facility on your printer, if it says how many copies do you want on one page, you could put 2 on there. You'll then just have to duplicate your cutting file and line it up and then just move it to match. So you can get more on there if you want. And because of the quality of the blade on the ScanNCut, you can go quite tiny. The only thing that will stop you going really, really teeny tiny is getting it off the mat, because some of the lines will become too thin, but it's worth trying. Right, so I'm going to go to edit, and I'm going to make the background lighter. I'll answer the question in a minute when I can concentrate on it. And then I'm going to zoom in and zoom in again. And you'll now see that every one of those sunflowers is right in the middle. That percentage button is brilliant. You just have to remember what percentage you shrunk it down to, because that's what I always do. I always go, did I do 50 or did I do 75 or did I do 2? I can't remember. So just write it down, write it on the little piece of paper as you print it off. But that means so easy to resize now with your reflections. That is super, super cool. And that's on the SDX only. You can't do that on a CM machine. So that percentage is just fabulous. It really is, because it means that you're not having to measure. You can literally just shrink it down by that percentage. So that's everything that I wanted to show you this month so that you can have a practice. Right, I've got a question. Yeah, so Chris said, can you cut the detail cuts? Yes, you absolutely can, Chris. The reason that I don't do them on a reflection, on a printed image, is because unlike a die that has a beveled edge, and the die with the pressure of the rollers pushes the card into itself, which is why you get almost that embossed look, on a ScanNCut, it's a straight cut. So as soon as you cut through that colour and start to add any manipulation to that paper, you see those white cuts. But yes, you absolutely can. You can also use a foiling pen from Brother. And I'm going to do this as a little video, not tonight, but at some point. And you can use the detail cuts to foil on top of your reflections. Now, I asked Brother about their foiling kits the other day, and they came back with a price that we just cannot compete with, because it was more to buy the foiling kit from them than it was to buy it from some of the retailers online. However, this is between me and you, don't tell anybody. If you buy the glue pens from Brother, and I would advise these glue pens over a Quickie glue pen because the flow of this is different, and it also has the numbers on the barrel, and we will get some of these in for you and put them on our website. The numbers denote where the level of glue is on the pen, and the machine will ask you when you put on your foiling premium function what level the glue is at, and it will tell you whether there's enough glue left in the pen to complete the design, which just blows my mind. But you don't have to have bought the foiling kit to be able to use the glue pen, because, and I bet they wish they hadn't done this now, but they have. On the back of every holder, there is a barcode, and the barcode on the foiling glue pen holder is the same as the universal pen holder. So you can wrap your glue pen with tape, put it inside your universal pen holder, switch your premium function on with your foiling, and then instead of asking it to draw, you ask it to foil, and it foils from the bottom up. So even on a CM machine, you can get it to foil from the bottom up so the static rollers don't go through the glue. But I will do you a full video tutorial on that just to show you how it works, because it's a nice addition. So yes, you can cut the detail cuts, you can foil them, you can emboss them, you can do all those different things with them, but I wouldn't use it on top of a reflection. But you can, it's basically the design that we had for the die with all those detailed lines in. So yes, absolutely, you can do that. Right, I have a couple of codes for you this week, and this is super exciting. So you may have been waiting as patiently as I have for this fabulous cardstock to come into our warehouse. And I got very, very giddy about this because I have always used a certain brand of card and I've absolutely championed it. And I have no qualms about that whatsoever. But the only thing that really used to bother me was you had to buy them in packs of spring, summer, winter, brights, or etc., etc. And I always found that I ran out of pinks and reds, greens, yellows first, and my neutrals. So I always found that I had lots of colours left over that I might not use, like really neon bright lime or bright yellow or orange, because I think we all have our favourite colour palette as a crafter. So when we found the same cardstock, because it is the same texture, same quality, same low chalk content. We decided to bundle them in colour families. So you get 8 colours in a pack, and they have delicious names too, like blueberry muffin. So you get 8 shades of blue in here. So we go from that dark blue to a grey blue. We go to a deep teal, to a mid teal, to a lighter teal, and then a bright blue to a lighter blue to a really soft, almost like a blue grey. And you get 3 sheets of each. Now these have only just come into stock, and they're normally $13.99 a pack. However, if you use code CM for Craft Master 1212, you can get 20% off until Sunday night at midnight. If you're a Robin's Nest member, you then get an additional 10% off, which brings it down to £10.10 a pack. And I'm just going to show you the colours because they are delicious. So we've got blueberry muffin, we've got apple pie, which is lovely because you've got your real Christmas greens. You go into more of an olive green, into a pale green there, quite a bluey green. So you go to a cool green to a warm green in one pack. So if you use all your greens up, instead of having to buy a pack of all the different colours just to get the few sheets of green, you can just buy greens. This is how, as a crafter and a ScanNCut user, I would want to buy my cardstock. So we've done it this way. Lilacs and pinks are absolutely beautiful. So you go really, really vivid right down to super soft, and it's beautiful on your ScanNCut, cuts like a dream. We've then got our lovely reds. So you go from a really strong blue red, a really dark blue red, into a pillar box red, and then through the salmons and the corals and almost into kind of a very soft blue pink. Then we also have our yellows and our oranges. So you've got lovely yellows in here, really pretty colours. I handpicked every single colour, and it took me forever because I wanted them all. And then we've also got our creme brulee, which is your neutrals. And today, up till Sunday at midnight, you can get them as a Robin's Nest member. And I would absolutely say to everybody, if you are going to buy from Highlight Crafts, become a Robin's Nest member because you get 10% discount off everything that you buy and free delivery over £25. Now, we looked at how much it was going to be to send this out, and it was extortionate. So if you put 3 packs in, you'll get free P&P, which is brilliant. So that's our new Craft Mastercard, which I'm super excited about. Use code CM1212, numbers, so CM1212, and you'll be able to get 20% off, plus your extra 10% off if you're a Robin's Nest member, which is fabulous value for money. So that's that. The other thing that we've got as well is a code for ScanNCut accessories. Now, it is Brother15, and we're going to give you 15% off all accessories. So mats, blades, anything like that. So if you want a standard mat, we've got them. If you want a low-tech mat, you've got them like that. If you want a scanning mat, you've got it like that. So you're getting 15% off all accessories, which is fabulous, including the machine. Just saying. And then your 10% discount as being a Robin's Nest member. That's amazing. So if you use the code and your Robin's Nest membership, a standard mat will be £16.82 instead of £21. That's fabulous. So it's all those little extras, but it has to be used by Sunday at midnight. And please don't tell anybody about these codes because they are exclusive for you guys on the free ScanNCut classes. So that's, and I would like to say a massive thank you once again for joining me. We're going to do another one next month. I had a lady at Peterborough say to me, "You never tell us when the next one is." And I said, "That's because I don't know." And the reason I don't know is because we work on TV and it's very fluid and it moves and it changes in a heartbeat. So as soon as we know, we will put it out on all our social media pages. It will definitely be in November, and then we'll get one in December, although I've just booked off from the 16th of December till the 4th of January is my holiday, because I haven't had a holiday yet this year, so that'll be really lovely. And then I'll come back with loads of new goodies and exciting things to share with you. And I will tell you this now, and I've had a little bit of stick on social media about it, but you know what, I've got broad shoulders. We are going to, in February, we are going to do the Quirky Bird fairies on a USB. I absolutely said we weren't going to do it, and at that moment in time, that was absolutely what I believed. We've had so many people contact us that customer demand has driven the decision that we are going to put them on a USB. So it'll be the artwork, the reflections, all sorts of different stuff is going on a USB for you. So yes, you won't get the same detail as you get with the die, just like you don't with your reflections from Two Red Robins. But if that's something that you're interested in, because of course you'll be able to resize them and make them bigger. So once again, lots of love to you all. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a lovely rest of the month. I am on air this weekend, starting at 8 p.m. tomorrow night with a Two Red Robins Weekender, which is dies, which is beautiful. And we also have a Robin's Nest USB launching, I want to say on the 28th of November, which is the web exclusives. So when we launch a set of dies, we also launch web exclusives. We're going to put those on a USB for you as well. So get practicing your scanning. And then next month, we'll find something else to do. I haven't decided what it is yet, but it'll be fabulous no matter what it is. Okay, I'll see you all really soon. Lots of love. Take care.